performing NHS organisations in our country. That doesn't just happen by accident, does it? And of course, yes, it's about the paramedics, yes, it's about the control room staff, yes, it's about PTS and those individuals that provide the frontline service, whatever that frontline service is. But it's also about everybody else facing in one direction for the organisation, all working to the same aim, to the same strategic objective, the same vision and the same values, making a difference for our staff, making a difference for our patients. And I know that some of you might have already been told, and I'm sure afterwards I'm probably going to get told off because I shouldn't have told you what the hell. We've now won again, and I'm not sure whether this is 4 years out of 5 or 5-year basis, and so congratulations, well done. But of course today is about looking forward. Ambulance Service of the Year and all the other awards are what we've done, which is great, but today is about looking forward. Now, some of you will heard me say, you're proud, and I know that I'm proud, and I hope that each of you are proud of everything that you've done so far for what you've achieved in the last 5 years or so since we were working. So the context that we're working is changing. So we need to recognise that, and we need to change with it. So today is about helping us and helping you. We're still absolutely the upper quartile of everything that we do. So whether it's operational performance, whether it's a clinical standard, patient safety, quality, all the innovation and the technology that so many of you are taking forward, Phil and the team, and the performance and all the other really exciting things that you're taking forward, but we're still absolutely at the cutting edge and at the leading edge of what we're trying to do for patients. And you're at the heart of that. You're absolutely crucial and critical in the success of the organisation going forward. There's no way we can overstate what we're doing. So it's really important that we use today in a really exciting way to think about how can we learn that much with services as well, that we make sure that we create a sustainable society that we're all proud of. Now, if you think back to August, when we had the substantial civil disorder in many of our major cities.
How many unwritten rules do you have in your organisation? How many unspoken things do people feel they have to do because they see other people? That's an example of the cycle of prison. Your organisation says a lot without saying anything. You know, where people are allowed to park, who's got their own regional or badge. All those kind of things, but the dress code that people have, the stationery that people use, the kind of computers people get. We observe things and by and large train into a way of thinking, a way of behaving that often works, sometimes doesn't. So, going back to the hands and fingers, if we can't even do this easily, change just the way we put our hands together, how much more difficult is it to change 8,500 people's way of thinking? To change the way that your organisation works? To even change your teams? If you can't even change that, then it feels really uncomfortable, doesn't it? Because it's not natural. Anybody love change? Do you think people really love change? What I want to say and share with you today is the importance and the power of language. If I go to one of my doctors and say, I'm going to change the way you're working on me, what do you think they say to me? It's probably like big two. Go there. If I come to them and say, would you like me to help you improve the way you deal with your patients? Most of them say, yeah, I would. See the difference between the words improve and change? Can you improve something without changing it? No, you have to change it. You can change things without improving it. The power of language is really important. To try and break out psychic prisons, but also just to try and help people. Now, you all know this as human beings. Who's got children? Yeah. Do you remember that first day your child runs out of school with a piece of paper going, Daddy, Daddy, this is your picture. I think my children are about 15, I can't remember. Do you remember that day? Yeah? Or days similar to it? You know, your little heart beats, doesn't it? There's a lump in your throat. You look down, you might get down on one knee. You take it off and you say, what the bloody hell is that? You're coloured outside the lines, you did it. Is that what you did? What did you say? Beautiful. Well done. How lovely. What didn't you say, or what shouldn't you say? What is it? What is it? It's you, Dad, is it? What are some really powerful questions you can ask? Tell me about your picture. It's a really powerful question. Tell me about your picture. Well, I don't know, sun shining. Is it? Oh, you're lovely. I can see that. Tell me about your picture. You know what the most powerful question is that you can ask a child? No? What shall we call it? Giving things a name is a really powerful, evocative, impactful thing. And sometimes with people in meetings, we need to name things, don't we? What's going on in the room? What's not being said? What's the fear that people have? Naming things is one of the most important, powerful things that you can ever do. So when you say to your child, what should we call it? Let's call it Mummy cooking tea. You know immediately what is in the child's mind and what that's trying to represent. We love as human beings to give things names. And the giving of a name is one of the most evocative things that you can ever do. So language is really key to give people back their language. Remember how important and powerful your language is. Now, one of the things I loved about when Anthony was speaking to you about your organisation is you're only as good as last night's presentation. You're only as good as last night's award. Thanks, that was great years of work. You know, if today something goes horribly wrong and the minister or the department bring Anthony, they're not going to be saying, first of all, let me say, Anthony, what a fantastic award last night. It's straight into it, wow, what went wrong. And what I loved was this vision of that's all in the past. How many organisations, and mine is one of them, manage their organisation by looking in the rearview mirror? Do you do that? Let's look at last month's metrics. Let's look at the trends from last year. Let's compare ourselves to organisations last year. We're driving the car by looking in the rearview mirror. Now, I think there are times you need to glance in the rearview mirror. Most of the time you need to look out the windscreen. I think what your boss was saying is, we want to, well, we keep looking in the rearview mirror saying we did a great job. There's a big journey still ahead of us. There's a lot for us to do. Put your hand up if you think your organisation's got it absolutely right. Put your hand up if you think you've still got a lot more to do. Yeah, we all have. NHS is going through change that I've never seen. I've been in the NHS 28 years. Started life as a clinician. Really miss sometimes working with patients and sometimes we really go working with patients. But we've got a massive amount to do and a huge amount of change that I've never seen. And what I really love, and this is what I'm trying to get across to my organisation, is, has anybody heard of the Athenian Code of Citizenship? No? When in ancient Greece, do you remember the city-states, you had Sparta, and Athens, and other big cities? In Athens, if you became a public officer, and you were all public officers, you swore an oath to the city of Athens. And your oath was something along the lines of, I pledge to leave this city, not less than, not the same as, not equal to, but greater and more beautiful than it was handed to me. Not less than, not the same as, not worse than, but better and more beautiful than it was passed to me. And I think if each of us in the NHS could make that pledge every day, that today I will lead my team, my crew, my ward, my staff, better and more beautiful than this morning. Every one of our actions will be way different. Every conversation that flows from our mouths will be slightly different because we wanted to live up to that pledge. And I said to my staff, just find one thing this week which has made you feel inspired. And I'll just ask each of you around the room, when was the last time you saw something in your organisation that made you go, wow, that really inspires me? We have, very similar to you, some values. We just have 5 words, and one of our words is inspiration. And under that it says, find one thing in the week that makes you feel glad to work in this organisation. So I've described to you a very challenged population, a very challenged organisation, but there are some fantastic things that we staff do every single day. We see 150,000 people a year through our area. We help 2,500 people die with dignity in our hospitals. We bring 6,000 new babies into the world. We do over 50,000 operations each year. And I say to my staff, if you can't find one thing that inspires you in all of that, come and have a chat with me because you're in the wrong job. We don't work at Sainsbury's, we don't make riches. We work with people at the greatest point of need in their lives. If you can't find something in that that makes you feel inspired, you're in the wrong job. Because when people think of inspiration, they think, I've got to go inspire people. I'm not asking any of my staff to go and inspire anybody else. I'm just asking them to find one thing each week that makes them glad they came to work. A lot of people say, you know, I remember in 1976, I saw this patient, great hair, nursing home. You know, it's too long ago. Back to Anthony's point, no good looking in the rearview mirror. What is it this week that's made you feel proud of our NHS, proud of your organisation, proud of your team, proud to be a part of something that meets people in their greatest hour of need and makes a difference? Because it's there if you look. It really is there. And I tell you what, if you feel inspired, people around about you will notice you. We've all got high maintenance people on the teams. Yeah? Yeah? Some people sat there going, no, that's you. You are the high maintenance person. You've all got high maintenance people on the team who nothing's ever right, you're always having a moan. You always try to come back with some clever ideas. I tell you the best way is just be inspired. Be really proud of what you do. And they'll notice that. And they'll think, first of all, you're mad as a box of frogs, you probably are. But they'll start to notice that you just love what you do. And just loving what you do, it kind of oozes out to people, doesn't it? You think of the best team you've ever worked with. Think of the best team. That team that you couldn't wait on a Sunday night to get back into work to see that team. That team where you felt you contributed, you were valued, you felt really alive. That team would have been an inspired team. Didn't always get it right, didn't always get on, but you felt so much proud to be a part of that. A team that you knew would bleed for you, because they knew that you would bleed for them. I just challenge you all, if that's not your current team, that's really sad. How can you make your current team the best team you've ever worked with? Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see. So if you want to change that team to be the best team, it's up to you to start the change. And the first place to start is be inspired. Find something that just gives you that bit of wow factor and go look for it. Because when you look for it, you see it. Sometimes you stumble over it, don't you? Oh, wow, that was inspiring. We have each year, I'm sure you do something similar, we have what we call our Golden Hearts Awards. And the staff vote for 9 categories of award. One of them is the Outstanding Individual of the Year, a clinical person, and an Outstanding Individual of the Year, non-clinical. But we also have an award we call the Magic Moments. And through the year, staff propose anything they see that gives them that bit of a wow, that magic moment that made them feel glad and alive and inspired. And they post through the year, and at the end of the year, they get judged, and the top 3 come to the events ceremony in all the awards, and then we call out the winner, and then the first loser and the second loser. We got a second. First loser is and the other going to say, first loser is, second loser is, winner. Try and do better next year, because you were obviously not good enough. So get to the magic moments. Get to the magic moments, and the winner was one of our porters. He was nominated by a nurse. He'd been pushing an elderly lady in a wheelchair onto one of the wards, and he heard from the toilet area one of the nurses shouting, crash, crash, crash. So he left the old lady there, probably with a word of comfort on his way. Rushed into the toilets. There was a nurse and a lady, a 59-year-old lady, laid out on the floor having a heart attack. Nurse then rushed off to the crash trolley. He gave this lady CPR, this is one of our porters, mouth-to-mouth CPR, resuscitated her. She crashed again. He did it a second time, by which time the nurse was back with the trolley and the box was there. They took over. Saved her life. 2 weeks later, she goes home, she's still alive, she came to the water. He won that award for that magic moment. And you know, he stood there in front of all these 350 people with the lights on him, being given this award, and there were tears in his eyes. And he said to me, this is the proudest day of my life. And his wife was there to see it. And Do you know, he was a soldier, he served in the army, and he said this was the proudest day of his life. And his story really inspired people to be different. And you will find those things if you look for it as an organisation. So I better do some stuff. That was just to give you kind of a bit of a sense of what we're looking at today. But you know, when things do go wrong, and things will always go wrong in organisations, because largely organisations are made up of human beings. You know that the organisation of the future will only have three things: a computer, a man, and a dog. And the computer will be there to do all the work, and the man is there to feed the dog. Why is the dog there? Stop the man interfering with the computer. That's the only reason. That's what we'll have in the future. Why have we still got human beings in organisations? When things go wrong, and here's some really good examples. You will recognise most of the names on this list of where things have gone horribly wrong. Largely because of a systems failure or an organisational failure. What happens? Individuals pay the price. Not the organisation, individuals pay the price. Any of you been to this stuff? Yeah. I've been there a couple of times since this happened. Staff are ashamed and frightened to wear their uniform outside of hospital. Staff in Harbour found their cars smashed in supermarket compounds. 500 nurses have been reported to remove from nursing homes. 50 doctors are reduced. It will take a generation for the organisation to lose the stigma of that, but it's the individuals who pay the price. So when things go horribly wrong, we always find someone to blame. It's normally the chief exec, and 50% of chief execs get the sack in their first year. Not because they're bad people, not largely because they're not good at their jobs, but you've got to have a blame game. And Anthony will back me up on this. When you become a chief executive of the NHS, you get a letter from the chief executive of the NHS, David Nicholson, welcome to your job. Please find attached all the things for which you are accountable. It's a big book, about 50 pages. You will remain in office as long as I deem you fit for purpose. And when you're no longer fit for purpose, you will be removed from office. Cheers. That's the accountable officer, it's true, that's the accountable officer letter you get that says, when things go wrong, you are the person. Individuals pay the price. Do you know, sadly, sometimes it's our patients. We have 500,000 patients come through our doors every year. Last year, we harmed 11,194 patients. 11,194 patients were harmed because they came into hospital. What's the biggest killer in England? Coronary heart disease, yeah? What's number 2? Hello! Number 2. Sorry? Being in hospital is the second biggest killer. Kills more people than cancer. Cancer is number 3. Most people think cancer is number 2. Being in hospital kills more people than cancer. Hospitals should be safe places. You are all bringing your patients to places of death. Just let me remind you of that next time your patients. But the places that people think should be safe is sometimes the patients who pay the price. And I think that's really sad. But why do organisations do this? Why do we create these psychic prisons, ways of thinking? Why do we allow systemic failure? Why do we tackle difficult issues? It's largely because we trap people into a way of thinking, a way of feeling, a way of behaving, or a result of policies and processes that go on. I love it when trade unions say we're going to work to rule. Because you think, like, if we work to rule, it'd be fantastic. Everybody just did what they were told. They work to rule, fine, we understand. But we have policies and procedures that probably are not fit for purpose. And just a bit of a challenge, what is an organisation? Because my people say, the trust doesn't do this, or the trust won't let us do this. And I'm looking around thinking, where is this trust thing? Who is the organisation? What is it? Isn't it you and me? Aren't we the organisation? Aren't we the trust? And then sometimes people will see the organisation as a bit of a machine, don't they? We process things, you know, we get people in, we process them, we make them go off sick, we get rid of them. You know, there's this kind of a sense of it's just a machine. We've got levers and levers and bits of twirly bits, and we pull levers and stuff happens. And the Department of Health thinks it's a bit like that, don't they? They'll send the boss and I letters that say, just do this, and you think there's a lever that you just pull or a wheel that you turn and things happen. And because that's how they see the world, it's a very simplistic view of what an organisation really is. People will sometimes say, organisations are like living, kind of breathing things. It's about people, it's about we change, we develop, we grow, we mature, we improve. A bit like growing up, isn't it? You come to an organisation that's a bit immature, but we go through that juvenile stage, we'll grow up, we'll deliver, we start to perform as adults. When are you most effective in your job, by the way? Anybody know? Answer me, how long have you been chief executive? All the research shows years 3 and 4 are probably the most impactful in your job unless you can continue to reinvent yourself as a leader. So taking yourself through the FT is a way of reinventing yourself. Reinventing yourself as the best ambulance trust in England. You have to continuously reinvent yourself because otherwise by year 6 and 7 you start to interfere. Things are running really well and you think, well, press the button, see what happens. Well, what if I change this? Or let's have a reorganisation. Let's change everything. Because you get bored. So you're really, really impactful in your job in about years 3 and 4 when you've grown to understand the history, you understand what you're doing, you're at your most potent, and you start to work with your MEP, and you start to tail off. You have to continuously reinvent yourself, but not at the expense of the organisation. So organisations do. People will see organisations as brains. Obviously, if you've got an intellect as high and as mighty as your boss and I, then that's fine, because we are obviously supreme leaders. And I love the way the DH have these great titles, like Supreme Commander. People will see organisations as brains. We think through problems, we create solutions, we analyse, intellect. It's actually quite true. If you work with some senior medical staff, they are the top 5% of the population in terms of IQ. They're thick, but they've got a really high IQ. There's a real difference, isn't there, between intellect and intelligence. I've got some really intellectual doctors who are really thick, who just do not get it. So it's not about intellect, it's about how we use our intelligence to make the right decisions. As leaders, how many of you, when it comes to making a decision, have got every bit of information to hand to make that decision? Yeah? Anybody ever have every fact that you could want to have there? So what you're saying to me is you sometimes make a decision without all the facts. Is that what you're saying to me? Yeah? So does that mean the best managers can make the decisions with less facts? Does that mean that the really great leaders can make decisions in complete ignorance? No. You've got to have some intelligence on it to make. Organisational cultures, we talked a little bit about that already this morning, getting into the lift. All those kind of things that force people to behave the way that they actually behave. And we create some bizarre behaviours, don't we? Absolutely create some bizarre behaviours as organisations. And there's 3 kind of levels of culture that you'll see. There's the level of artefact. So when you walk into an organisation, if it says consultant car parking spaces, that says something, doesn't it, about the organisation. The artefact of who gets an open plan office and who gets a secluded private office with a jacuzzi and a minivan. That's my office. Those artefacts say something, don't they? Then you've got your policies and procedures, but the biggest thing that impacts on culture is the unwritten assumptions that people make about what they can and cannot do. Do you have, in your organisation, do you have to wait for permission from the boss before you can do anything? Do you have to send an email to Anthony saying it's 5 to 10, it's okay for those to the toilet? Some organisations have command and control at the centre. The unwritten assumption is everything has to be passed over. And then you get a new chief executive who might say, I want everything to be pushed back down. Decisions made at the lowest level. Imagine what people in the organisation are thinking. You know, it's, do I pass it over, do I pass it down, I don't know. I tell you, I'll pass it on to somebody else, they can make the decision. We pass the monkey around, don't we? And that's what emails are all about. I've worked out that's what emails are. It's just a way of passing the monkey on. What if you could have a look at this form here, what if you thought about this, what if you could make a decision about this? I don't read any copy of emails. So people always think, don't they, Anthony, I'll copy the boss in, and then he'll know that they're being a bit naughty and I'm smacking their bottom. I don't delete the copy emails. So if somebody puts me in the copy box, it goes straight to my delete items, and they get an email that says, please note that I do not read copy emails. So people think, put it in the to box. So then I read the email and I go back and say, thank you for sending me this email. What do you want me to do to choose things about this? And often they'll come back and say, well, nothing, so don't send it to me. Emails are about passing them on people, about not having that human-to-human interaction that makes a difference. I'm toying with the idea, that won't be popular, of we, as directors, we have what's called the First Friday, where I don't allow the directors to have any meetings. So I get them to go out and talk to people, not allowed to have formal meetings. We spend a couple of hours together, we all walk onto a wall together. And I'm thinking of on our First Friday, I'll just switch off the email for the whole system, for the whole organisation. We launched our leadership day yesterday. There was 100 senior leaders, similar to this. It's a 3-year programme. I only got 3 emails yesterday. I thought, it's all the buggers in this room. So I thought how powerful it might be just once a month to actually make human beings talk to each other. And I've got some mad ideas like that, but culture is a really important thing in organisations. Organisations can absolutely be political systems. Who knows who, who's close to who, who's allied with, where does the real power sit in the organisation? We all know the real power sits with the porters and the telephonists. They absolutely, that's where the real power, they know everything that goes on in a large organisation such as mine. Switchboard know who's making all the calls, who's getting all the calls. The porters see the whole system. They're where the real power is. Organisations will often be in flux and transformation. We think their organisations are stable, but they're not. We've just had our 100th year anniversary of our hospital on our Castle Hillside. It's been a healthcare organisation for 100 years. Now, I have to say there are 1 or 2 buildings that are still there after 100 years, but most of it is just radically different. And healthcare from 5 years ago is just radically different, isn't it? I have my dogs running about now with iPads. Absolutely, all the technology and the gizmo and everything, you know, all the gear and all that. And organisations can also be instruments of domination. The small man syndrome played out by certain individuals who want to oppress, dominate, impose their will on other people. And I just want to think today about scientists and how you, in terms of organisation development, could break out of something. Just like you have a read of that, which is really true about organisations are created and sustained by the pictures, the language, the way that we work together as people. And we can break out of these things. Anybody heard of Plato's cave? It's just this thought that if you tied some prisoners in the cave and had a big fire behind them, and the players who stood doing shadow puppets, and all they could see were the shadows on the wall, that's all they'd ever seen, and that's what they would think was reality. And if you, after a few years, took them outside and said, no, this is the reality, this is what a real world looks like, or a force, they wouldn't believe them. And our organisations are a bit like that in the NHS. The reality is not what it really seems. So being in a psychiatric prison, the picture of the screen, yeah, you familiar with that? Yeah? Anybody familiar with the Beatles song, Help? Yeah, we all sing along there. What a crying plea for help from someone. When you read those words of somebody who's addicted to drugs, whose life has gone down the toilet, and yet we all sing along there, we're not really listening. That's what psychiatric prisons can do. We've got people in our organisations, and I suggest, and would argue, you've got some of these who are screaming for help, who find it difficult to cope, who may not understand the values, may not know what's expected of them, and feel trapped, and they're just doing what I did, getting in the lift and turning around, wondering why everybody's looking at them. It's just so out of place here, and they need help. You know, we've got 80 people in our organisation statistically, 80 people who are addicted to drugs. You know, what are we doing to help those people? We've got 40 alcoholics. I'm sure you've got similar numbers of people who really need some help. So we trap ourselves into a way of thinking, who's ever done psychometric tests? Who's done Myers-Briggs or done science? It's great, isn't it? You sat in a meeting and somebody goes, what do you do that for? Oh, I'm an extrovert, that's what we do. Oh, I'm a clear, I don't do paperwork. Oh, don't give me an agenda. I'm free, easy and hard, and they're flowing, I don't have structural skills. I'm sexually much more attractive. We trap ourselves into a way of thinking, and we use that as a way of justifying what we do as teams and as people. Well, that's not my fault. It's not my fault. I'm an M. I see big picture. I don't do detail. I don't do detail. Cities where the poor kind of fell apart. The cultures are very different. If I went into Liverpool and I said, God, this part of your city is really crap, isn't it? He would be the living daylights. Yeah? It's my city, really proud of it. If he lived in Hull and I went, God, this part of your city is really crap, he'd laugh and say, you think this is crap? I'll take you around the corner, look how crap this is. Really proud of the nothing that they have. And it's a really funny attitude that people have. You hear it from stories, you'll hear it from the stories your teams tell. You know, one of the real skills of leadership is to really listen. And I say this to my teams, when you go to meetings, there's only 3 things you're interested in when you go to a meeting. And the first thing I say when people ask me to come to a meeting is, what do you want me to do in the meeting? Well, nothing really. If I can't speak to 7 things out of 10 on the agenda, I shouldn't be there. And I'll give you that as a rule of thumb. If there's an agenda with 10 things in it, and you only can speak to less than 7, you shouldn't be there. Just ask them to bring you in for the one thing that you can contribute to. There's 3 things that you should be looking for in meetings. One is, what's the content? What's actually being spoken about? What's the deals on the table? What's the decisions to be made? What's the analysis that's going on? And to be honest, I'm not really interested in detail anymore. That shouldn't be my job as chief executive. So when I go to meetings, I'm not that interested in the detail. So the other 2 things I go for, which are really fascinating, is what's happening in the meeting? What's the process of the meeting? Where is the real power in that meeting? How are decisions being made? How are people communicating? People think hospitals are dirty, don't they? People still think hospitals are dirty. There are sometimes I can eat my dinner off the floor on some of our walks that we clean something. And then how do we get across hospitals, ambulance vehicles? There's a big thing in the press, wasn't it, a few months ago about how dirty ambulance vehicles are. They're infecting everybody with MRSA and C. It's all your fault. Blah, blah, blah. People have this perception because the press is really good. And it's really difficult, isn't it, to unlock some of that way of thinking that the public have, because they've been conditioned to behave and to feel the same way that we have. And we construct this prison around ours as organisations, and Hull was very good at this. When I went to Hull, it was like a fortress. We wouldn't allow anybody else in. We didn't need anybody else, because nobody would understand our problems. So you can imagine the commissioners, the SHA, the CQC, all wanting to bang the doors down and trying to protect ourselves by keeping everybody out. And that's what organisations in difficulty do, try and keep everybody out. And my first job was to try and lower the drawbridge, pull up the portcullis, open all the windows, open all the back doors, let people in. And let's not be afraid to talk, to show, to share, to learn. But I think that the block is in the middle management. We want to stop things happening. You're absolutely right now. Middle managers haven't got a clue to do what consultants want and pretend to the bosses that everything's okay and they're doing what you really want in your head. How that feels. Some people make it through their hands. What can I make happen? What's the pragmatic solution? And effective leaders just accepting that people would see the world differently. It would be a fantastic world. That'd be the first person to want to get off. Yeah, there's a richness in the inclusion all around us of everybody's voice and feelings being heard. We were talking to Sophie earlier about the term equality and diversity. We all think we know what that is, don't we? We're all very different. Did anybody see that article in the Daily Telegraph about the Royal Liverpool Hospital? That put an advert in the paper for a doctor? Yeah. And they put at the bottom, it was
sparkling speaker, which I know is not true, but you've got the most boring day jobs. The second reason I'm amazed is this is supposed to be a masterclass on leadership. You will know this morning, I can't even work at this. So what do I know about leading 8,500 people in a large organisation? I guess the first thing is it's not a plug for karaoke, but if you're going to be a leader, you have to be authentic and see for who you really are. I think I learned probably more there about leadership and being authentic than ever working with staff in healthcare organisations. It was a real salient lesson for me that people will see through all of that. background because it's post-lunch time now, so you probably remember at least 7 words of what the chairman said, you know. And it just goes buzzing, buzz, buzz over your head. So you will remember people will not remember what you say as a leader. People will rarely remember what you do as a leader. Unless you make a big cock up, and then they'll remember that, and that's all they'll remember you for. People will always remember how you make them feel. I think you've got to get a boss being horrible to them. Because some people do want to come and tell me about their horrible bosses and how broken they are and how they need fixing. And expect me to go off and fix them. Joanna wanted to tell me about her boss, and she started to tell me her story. And she said, you just need to know a bit about background, Phil. A few weeks ago, I came home and my husband had left me and run off with my best friend. My mum had only just died, and I've got real problems with my eldest son, who's really into drugs. And she said, when I came home and found my husband had left me, she said, I just felt worthless. And I just didn't want to go on anymore. I felt really life had thrown everything it could at me, and I had enough. And I came to work the next morning, and I was sat in the car park, in my car, and I couldn't physically get out of my car. She said, I was just sat there. I'd been sat about 10 minutes, and it got to the point where I was about to drive home, park in the garage, and put a pipe to the exhaust, and kill myself. I couldn't stand living anymore. And just as I got to the point where I thought, that's what I'm going to do, it's a tap on the window, and it was. And she kind of jumped a bit as you do, and what's it with? What's wrong, Johnny? Are you okay? Johnny kind of fills up. So the boss just got in the car next to her and sat there for about 25-30 minutes. And said, while Janet poured her heart and soul out to her boss, the boss said, took the keys off her, said, stay in the car, got in, contacted the Mental Health Trust with a crisis resolution team, made sure that Janet got home, so I've called in that night on the way home. And Janet came and said, I just wanted to tell you about my boss because I think she was the one who saved my life. And that for me was a really vivid picture of somebody getting alongside somebody, of leading from the side, doing the right things. And that's how you need to be as leaders. That's what leadership can sometimes be about. And then there's another position, that's leading from behind. And that isn't charge up the hill or shoot you in the back. This is the kind of leadership, and the pictures in my head, we say, well, obviously, other people have not been so lucky as me. They need to get to know it. I believe there are people who are born with some leadership skills. Some people have got a great sense of drive, charisma, people want to follow. But anybody can learn leadership skills. So if you're sat here today thinking, gosh, I wasn't born a leader, I'm not born a speaker, I'm not sure what position you're a leader, we just need a lot of marketeers and spear politicians. Anybody who's worked longer than 20 years in that service, come on, yours all the times. 20, 25 years, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 40. Got it there. Never seen change like it, have you? It's just unbelievable pace and scale of the change that we're going through. And staff are finding it really hard. Staff are looking for people to rescue them, to give them a feel that it's going to be okay. They're looking for leaders to walk with them and step out in front of them and lead the way. And I think the 5 things you probably need to pay attention to are these 5 things. Models, metaphors, paradigms, personal construction, archetypes. Forget the words, the kind of biggie words. I'm just going to go through all of those. These are the things that make a difference when you're trying to lead teams. Let's start with models. You will see the world slightly differently. Who's left-handed? Yeah, there's a few of us. Do you know on average we live 7 years less than the right-handed people? I'm convinced your minds that you see something you're not seeing. Here's another good example of pain. The one on the left is just a picture, and the one on the right is the real man. And why do we all see it all different? This is a fascinating one. Most women just see it look light. 80% of men that look at this see something different. If all you see was look like, get over the chat at the end and ask him what he saw in this picture. We're all kind of trained society to see the world differently. So leadership, good leaders about having good models, great leaders is having a variety of models and being able to models you're trying to achieve. Does that make sense? You've all got those models. Metaphor. Another word for stories. The most powerful thing, we talked about this morning, the most powerful thing you can do is tell a story. The stories make the models come to life. If you can explain, look, this is how conflict resolution works, this is what we're going to be doing, we're going to take models to work. When the clips play, I'm going to ask you all at the end, and just a few people can share with us, what sticks out for you? What do you remember when the clip's finished? What makes an impact for you? If you want to share why, that's absolutely fine, but there will be something, hopefully for everybody, that just makes you laugh, makes you feel sad, makes you feel happy, makes you cry, makes you just amused. Just try and remember one thing from this clip.
It's really what you're all here to do. You're all in a position where people look to you and are influenced by your words, your actions, your compassion, your support, and everything that you do on a day-to-day basis. So,
it's such an important subject, and it's great that this conference has been arranged because I think it shows the commitment and importance that the ambulance service place upon leadership in the organisation. And this, in many ways, some other reason that we've all got, we all bring in different reasons. But there's an organisation, and still do, but the most important part of leadership in an organisation is first line supervision in a level. Because those, you are, people who've got contact with the most important part of our organisation, the people who are in that organisation. And I think it's all about that supervision in the organisation. We sometimes talk about the organisation supervision, who communicates with people in the organisation and shows them their worth within that organisation. That is what true leadership is about. And it's very much what the old day I've lived in an organisation. Some people will be better than others, I think, of course they will. But if you take on that role, you know what you're taking on, find yourself why you want to be a leader, very important. And then